Now, it's all well and good talking about the theory and you have these 5 questions and 5 answers, but the foundation stage is what you can do is to show them that these things have a purpose. You can turn story making into a game where you take an ordinary carrier bag with 5 classroom objects in, anything at all, and you get the children to take an object out. So I'll just put my hand in and I've pulled out, well, it's a bobbin and some thread, and you look at that and say, well, who could this be? It's a man whose shirt is falling to bits. It's a woman who is very good at stitching. It's a tailor. It can be anything that you want. It could be a snake with a long, thin tongue. And you say, what are they doing? Well, let's decide. And this is where, with speaking and listening, one of the foremost pushes of the recent governmental plans to get speaking and listening, you get the children to negotiate. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be the woman who can stitch very well? Is it going to be the tailor? Is it going to be the snake? Is it going to be the man with the raggedy shirt? And they decide, well, let's choose the man with the raggedy shirt. And what's he doing? Is he walking? Is he talking? Is he by himself? So you get the children, and again it's negotiation about those children who put their hands up, those children who choose sensibly and can give a sensible, reasonable, imaginative answer. What we're trying to get to do is to get the children to use their imagination. So you say, so what's he doing? He's walking, all right? When is this happening? Is it the morning, in the afternoon? Is it in the summertime, the winter? You give children lots of choices, so that those children who have never chosen, who have never dredged any part of their imagination ever, you've given them 4 choices. Is it the summer? Is it the winter? Is it raining? Is it sunny? And all they have to do is choose one of those. It's raining. What kind of rain? Heavy rain? Fine rain? And you get them by constant questioning to come up with, there was a man with a raggedy shirt who was walking, and the rain was falling, and the rain was falling onto his skin and making him feel cold. Where was he? Was he by a river, by a stream? Was he by the seaside? Where was he? Somebody puts a hand up, say by the seaside. What kind of seaside? Always back to trying to get the children used to the idea of description. So what kind of a sea? It was a rough, roaring sea. So there was a man. Was he tall? Was he short? There was a tall man with a raggedy shirt on his back, and he was walking, and the rain was falling, and it was falling on his skin and making him feel cold as he walked by the side of the rough, roaring sea. Why was he walking? Was he lost? Was he trying to find somebody? Was he trying to find somebody to fix his shirt? He was trying to find somebody to fix his shirt. So, from a bobbin of thread with a needle in it, we have got that there was a tall man with a raggedy shirt on his back who was walking by the side of a rough roaring sea when the rain was falling down on his skin, and he was trying to find somebody to try and help him to mend his shirt. And what I do, to be perverse, is to say to the children, good, I know it's time for milk, now it's time to do something else, and the children are sitting there, and if you think of it, you've got quite a lot of a story there. And then on the next day, you choose another object out of the bag. So I'll put my hand in. First thing there I bring out is a ladle. Now, some children may never have seen a ladle in all of their lives, but you see, it's a spoon. Well, whose spoon could this be? Give the children some ideas, especially with the younger ones, and even with the older children. You take these objects, and I'll redo this story using the same 3 objects in the form of doing it as a Key Stage 2 story. You'd look at this, but for the younger children, you'd look at this and go, it's a giant spoon. So there's this man, tall. What kind of shirt's he got? I can't remember. And of course, you haven't forgotten, but you're trying to get the children to get used to the idea of composing the story. Tall man, raggedy shirt, side of the rough roaring sea, rain's falling down, shirt's hanging off his back, skin's cold. He wants to find somebody, and who does he meet but a giant? A giant who's got a huge spoon, and he's taking, well, what could he be taking? Could he be taking the sand? Could he be taking the sea? What could he be doing? And you ask them and they decide. Obviously, without children here, I'm having to make the decisions. So I'm going to say that the giant was taking the sand, and this man, who wasn't looking where he was going, fell in a great deep pit. And there was the giant, and he screamed and he yelled, please get me out of here. I'm wet and I'm cold and I'm stuck in this hole. And the giant looked down and picked him up with his fingers. What kind of fingers? Broad fingers, his hard, broad fingers. Get children used to using multiple adjectives to describe, and ban big, 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 little, 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 little. Get them to use different adjectives each time. And he picked up the man and he popped him into his pocket. And the giant laughed. But when the giant laughed, it made the poor man's ears nearly burst. And then, it's time for milk. Your mums and dads are here. It's time to go home. You've left the children with two parts of the story. You've got a beginning and a middle. And now we'll bring it to a conclusion. I put my hand in, and I've got here, well, it's the bottom of a food mixer, and you look at that. You wouldn't use this isn't an everyday classroom object, but you look at that, it could be a tall tower, it could be a helicopter, it could be, invariably, there's always somebody who'll turn around and say, it's a gun. Well, you just make a rule. Nobody is going to die, nobody's going to get shot, and say, well, I would say it's a tall flower. It's a flower that the giant loved, and that was why he was trying to get all of the sand, so he could pack it all around that flower, because the flower was falling over. Well, this man, I've told you, was tall. And he looked and he said, if I help you, you could help me, because I need to have my shirt stitched. And I know that if you were to go and take your great big spoon and dig the hole deeper, then the flower would be closer to the ground and the flower wouldn't fall over. Well, the giant laughed, but quietly this time. His voice rattled and echoed in that empty place. And he dug deeper. He put the flowers in, lower in the soil, so that when they grew up they wouldn't fall over. And he stitched. For all he had broad, hard fingers, he could do the finest stitching in all of this world. And the giant and the man in his pocket would look after flowers, and the giant never ever took any sand from the side of the sea. I think you've got to admit that if you start off by just taking an object, asking these questions, and leave it. On another day, as a practice, take one object and ask questions, and then leave it. Take another object on the third day, ask these questions and leave it. You don't have to make a complete story, but you are showing the children a process where they can actually construct a story.